Ever since I was in high school, I've always worked in customer service. I've worked in retail, I've worked in the restaurant industry, worked in the hospitality industry, in the hotel for years, now I'm working in the airline industry. And one of the things I've learned is empathy and to kind of put myself in the customer's place, treat people how I want to be treated.
I live alone. I'm a great-grandfather now. I'm 84, and I have time to think about all my relatives more than maybe some people have time for, and especially my grandchildren. And I feel like I can encourage them in their life walk right now. A lot of them are having troubles financially. Some of them are puzzled in romance as to whether this person is the right person to marry, and so forth. And I try to be both a loving grandfather and a counselor, both at the same time. And I think maybe that's one of the roles of grandparents, is to be accepting, not to reject on account of anything, but to keep the door open and to show my love to them and my caring about them as much as I possibly can. I think I email most of them at least a couple times a month.
I really just try to have a servant's heart and to use my spiritual gifts when I'm teaching with my students, to have compassion, to understand their circumstances, and to work with them as they're trying to learn the new material, and I'm trying to teach them, and to model for them love and support of each other, and the love and support that I get from my church family. I try to help bring that into the school building.
In my everyday life, ministry and my faith is integrated into what I do. I really feel like it's important that that I'm listening to people and responsive, and it happens a lot when I laugh that sometimes the bookstore has a full service, counseling service, and and books and directions and coffee. But all of those things are significant in how we relate to one another. When people are cold and they need a cup of coffee, that's how I minister. When somebody is, I had this happen today, somebody is in love and they need to talk, and that's cool. That's really wonderful.
I think discipleship is about kind of taking the initiative to realize someone's possibly in need of your help, and then going out of your way to apply that help.
There are so many charities that are sending out requests for money, and I have always varied my giving. I give our church by far the most, but I don't forget other worthwhile things as well. And I must have a stack of charities 1.5 feet high now. About this time of year, I get out a big card table and I sort them into categories. I tend to be extremely concerned about Native Americans on reservations. They have the lowest standard of living in our whole country, and the worst health, and the worst record on education and everything else. So I tend to give heavily to them, and I've been giving all through the year, but in the fall is when I complete what I'm trying to give.
I try to be their teacher, and as well as a compassionate adult.
Well, I was walking to my car at the bank parking lot, and I looked up and saw a lady walking from Kroger's with a bag in each hand, and she just looked exhausted. And so I looked up and said to her, "Ma'am, do you need a ride?" And she said to me, "I just had been praying for a ride. How did you know?" Well, I didn't know consciously, but I gave her a ride.
Last year I worked the day of the hurricane on the East Coast, and it was very emotional for our flight crews in New York and Boston and Philadelphia. And I remember this one flight attendant calling me from Brooklyn, and she was crying. I guess the taxi cab that was supposed to get her to the airport had crashed, and so she was stuck and just very upset, trying to get home to her family. And I remember she told me her dog was at home, and like I felt bad. I tried to be empathetic and listen to her story and try to make arrangements to get her home as soon as possible.
I think I bring my faith particularly into my work life because these are often people in crisis or people with needs. They're in a health crisis or whatever. I represent an insurance company, and I think they expect me to be the no person. And I do sometimes have to say no. But at the same time, I understand, I've been in that position too sometimes, and I think I understand that there's ways to say no, there's ways to find alternatives, there's ways to still be supportive. And I think my faith helps me to react that way to people, to understand them, to take what they feel into account.
At work yesterday, when I was done, I was getting ready to leave, and I saw this little girl in the window waiting for her parents to come. And it wasn't until right as I was about to walk out the door that I noticed she was crying. So I asked her what was wrong, and she said that her dad hadn't come. I tried to help her. I offered her my phone, and she was very grateful. So I stayed there until her parents came. And I think the feeling I felt when she drove away was that kind of force that compels you to help those around you.
When I worked in the hotel industry at the Marriott, trying to put myself in that person's position. There's an instance where I've had somebody get sick, call down, not feeling well, and have to bring them some extra blankets and some towels. And a couple occasions I've brought people orange juice mixed with Sierra Mist, and that's something my mom used to always give me when I was sick growing up, so I wanted to provide this for the guest as well.
And to be faithful in worship is very important to me. And to be here, whether I feel I'm in a worshipful mood or not, I think there might be other people here looking for me who need me for some reason to talk to me this Sunday. So I try to remember that. I used to say that to congregations, and now I say it to myself. This is part of being faithful.
I think it does surprise people that I can say no, or I can qualify something or get into a difficult issue in related to paying for health care and still be okay to deal with, still be nice.
I stress and emphasize support and working as a community in the classroom, that we're there for each other, we're learning together. So when I show them compassion, then they can demonstrate that.
What I give away is very important to me.
You've done something right, done something you should have, and not out of any monetary reward or something. Nothing somebody gave you to do this. It's just you knew it was the right thing.
And so ministry is reciprocal. Our faith is reciprocal. How we reach out to one another it goes back and forth. And there's never the one authority or one person who has all the answer.
As a Christian, you just can see Jesus written all over him.